Hey folks, hope you're doing good today. We've got two heavy bands to check out today. They both made a priority submission. Thanks very much for that. The first band we're going to check out is called Blindgods. They've got a track for us called Change. I just looked on their Facebook here. It says they're a rock band based in Graz, started in 2019, and wants to represent the current hurt and frustration of the world problem. These guys are apparently an eco band, and all their lyrics and stuff like that are about that kind of stuff. Very cool. Good to have a passion behind the music. So yeah, let's give it a spin.
People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
I thought those how dare yous were great. It's the kind of thing you'd love to say to those people. Nice snare sound.
Time is passing by. We all have a fight to go. Right now, there's something wrong outside. But we do nothing for the side. Breaking out the roots of passion.
Yeah, it's got a nice attitude to it.
Coming down and fighting for the edge. You may now they say it's answer. If you never make your sign, we showed up before.
Nice to take it off the cymbals and onto the toms. Gives the verses of broodiness. Amount of litter in the world.
So right now, if you never make
Nice guitar tone. I would say though, you can't quite hear the bass as nicely as you can the guitar. I think they could have got away with cranking that up a little bit more, letting the mids of it cut through the mix. It's got a nice dirty guitar tone. Nice job. And in terms of the message, great job. And I will say this as well. Let's just see this. I don't know how anyone drops litter on the ground. But yeah, in terms of the message, I've said this before, not on the show, but to people I know. I'm surprised that in nowadays music, there's not a lot more protest bands and bands that are really kind of Rage Against the Machine type bands where, you know, they're anti-establishment or railing against the things that are happening in the world. Because, Jesus, there's enough stuff happening nowadays compared to where there was, say, in the late 90s when you did have a lot of protest bands out there. There's even more stuff nowadays to kind of shout and scream about and be angry about and make protest about and kind of rail against the establishment. And climate change is definitely one of them, because not enough is being done about that. Even, you know, governments acknowledge that it's an issue and then do really nothing about it. And it really should be a thing for the younger generations, because it's going to affect their lives more so, to really shout and scream about and want some action. And music's usually a great way to get that done, or kind of at least express yourself in that way. Not necessarily make the change and get things done, but get it off your chest and express it. And I'm actually surprised that there's not more youngsters nowadays, kind of early 20s people who are really, really angry at the way the world's going, and particularly with climate change, because it's going to affect the rest of their lives. And we just really don't see it, or I'm not coming across it when we check out a lot of bands. But yeah, not seeing enough, in my opinion, protest bands, angry bands, that are bringing across a message like you used to see Rage Against the Machine and stuff like that back in the day. I don't know where that's gone. So the youngsters, maybe they just got kind of outrage overload and fatigue from it all. But man, if you care about this kind of stuff, get in a band and make some angry music about it, because we really, really need that. Very cool though, I enjoyed it a lot. Great sound, nice poppy snare in there, cool vocal, nice gravel in the vocal as well. The only thing that I would say that I'd like to see a bit more of in this band is a bit more of that bass tone coming through the mix, so you can hear it individually to those big dirty guitars. But still, great sound. Now, this next band, we had them on recently, and they obviously love being on the show and want to be on again. This is Triage. This is an instrumental, dirty, heavy band with a vibe and a groove to it, like those last guys had as well. So I think these are going to go together quite nicely. This one's called Derico. Yeah, these guys are Canadian. Let's check them out. Dirty guitars. Oh, this guy as well does the artwork. All the artwork you can see in there, and the letters is just kind of style. It's got an Instagram, some pretty cool artwork on there as well. And you can hear that bass in this one. No complaints there. Sounds. A few layers of guitar in there. Now, I'm pretty sure I said this last time these guys were on the show, and I am going to say it again, guys. I'd like to see a bit more cymbal work in this kind of music, because big washy cymbals suit this kind of music very, very nicely. A big crashy ride, the odd ting on the bell, moving it onto the crashes and stuff like that, because the reverby sound of these guitars just goes great with big washy cymbals. They're like, you know, two partners that just sound great together, fills out the sound, goes with the washiness of the guitars. So yeah, that would be what I'd like to see out of this band now. It's more mixing it up on the cymbals and using the washiness of the cymbals to complement the washiness of the guitars and the type of music that it is. You know, keeping it on the hi-hat. Got a bit of double bass in this one. But keeping it on the hi-hat keeps your music very tight. I don't feel like this is particularly tight music. It's washed out, kind of got an attitude to it more so than it tight and punchy. They're good sounding cymbals. Got a nice wash. Yeah, this one's pretty crazy compared to the last one. So I think these guys as well, they give me the vibe of kind of jam tracks where when you're in a band and you've been jamming for ages, you can jam these kind of tracks on the spot because you're just all so locked in together and know what each other's going to do. It's kind of like jazz improvisation almost. I think working more on the drums and using the cymbals in the way that I've said will give a track like this, it's kind of loosey-goosey and open-ended. You'll give it a bit more structure and it will help the listener understand when the changes are going to come next. Cool one. These are a cool band, and I think they're definitely heading in the right direction, but I don't think they've quite reached where they're going to get to or where they potentially could get to with this kind of stuff just yet. I think the guitaring is all there, the sound of the guitars, the guitaring, that cool solo there at the end, the bassing as well, and the sound of the bass all sounds great. They've ticked those boxes, no problem. For me now, to really capture the way that this sound can sound really cool and kind of mesh all the elements of the music together nicely would be, as I say, a bit more cymbal work on the drum kit, bring in the wash of the cymbals to put the high end of the mix, and use the way that you use the cymbals to hold the hand of the listener and tell them when the next change is going to come. And the drummers can do all of that stuff with the rolls on the toms and things like that, and changing up the cymbal work. But I would also, in terms of the mix, add more reverb to the drums. They're a bit clean and dry in the mix compared to how dirty and reverbed out the guitars are. And I've found when you're trying to make this music, I make very reverby, washed out music as well, is in order to get all of the elements of the music to sit together nicely, you need to kind of reverb them up all in a similar way, so that it feels cohesive. It feels like they're all in the same room playing a jam or a gig or something like that. And I think what we need to do in this one to bring those drums and mesh them more nicely with the guitars so that they're not a kind of a clean sound against the really dirty reverby sound, is add some more reverb to the drums, add a bit of maybe saturation on the drums as well to rough them up, give them a bit of dirt, and what you'll start to do is just create a cohesive reverby dirty sound that meshes in together, that all feels like it's, part of the same thing. And that would, because they haven't got any vocals in this one, it's an instrumental band, so you couldn't dirty up a vocal or something like that to kind of, bring that sound into the mix as well. So with working what they've got, I would think that The drums could use a bit more cymbal work, and also in the terms of the mix, dirty them up and give them a bit of reverb to suit the guitars as well. And I think you already start to be heading in towards, where this sound comes together, to where it really, really, really sounds great. But I enjoyed it. I like having these guys back on the show, and I love it when a band makes a priority submission and they're on the show, and then quite quickly after that they make another one, because that tells me, they enjoyed being on the show, and it gives me a good feeling as well. So I hope you've enjoyed the bands today. 2 cool bands to check out, and thanks very much for the submissions as well. See you guys. Bye.